The sharp sound of the slap rang out before anyone could react. A frail 70-year-old woman stumbled under the harsh courtroom lighting, while her son's hand remained lifted, trembling not from guilt, but from anger. Judge Judy paused mid-motion, shock quickly turning into something far colder. In the gallery, people flinched as the bailiff rushed forward. But the mother softly pleaded, "Please don't." That's when Judge Judy's gaze tightened. What kind of son resorts to violence in a place meant for justice? The son kept his hand raised, even as the bailiff stepped in between them. Slowly, almost deliberately, he turned to face Judge Judy, his expression defiant, as if she were the one at fault. There was no sign of regret, only arrogance filling the space where remorse should have been. The tension in the courtroom lingered, thick and unsettled. The mother steadied herself at the witness stand, her fragile hands gripping its edge, as though it were the last thing holding her together. A faint red mark bloomed across her cheek. I'm okay," she murmured, though no one believed it. Judge Judy sat upright, the light catching against her glasses. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her silence carried more weight than any outburst. "Put your hand down," she said calmly, each word precise. The son smirked, actually smirked, before finally lowering his hand, as if he were doing her a favor. He looked to be in his late 30s, jaw clenched, stance wide and challenging. His name, Ethan, lay in the case file, but his attitude already told the story. This wasn't the first time he had tried to intimidate someone, just the first time he had done it in front of a judge. "State your name for the record," Judge Judy instructed. Ethan Graves." His tone was flat, dismissive, like even speaking was beneath him. A quiet murmur spread through the room until Judge Judy silenced it with a single raised hand. Then she turned to the woman. "Marilyn Graves." Her voice was barely audible. "I didn't mean for things to get out of hand. He just gets frustrated." "Frustrated?" Judge Judy repeated. "People who are frustrated use words. Your son used his hand." Ethan's jaw tightened, irritation surfacing beneath his attempt to stay composed. "She exaggerates, she always has," he muttered. The words struck harder than the slap. Marilyn shrank slightly, already looking apologetic. "I'm going to stop you there," Judge Judy said firmly. "Dismissing what we all just saw won't work in this courtroom." Ethan rolled his eyes, subtle but unmistakably disrespectful. His glance toward the audience challenged them silently, but their quiet judgment said more than any words could. Leaning forward slightly, Judge Judy fixed her eyes on him. "Mr. Graves, why did you strike your 70-year-old mother?" A pause followed. Then, unexpectedly, Ethan's lips curled into a faint, almost amused smile. "If you knew what she did," he said, "you'd have done the same." Judge Judy tapped her fingers once against the bench. Slow, controlled. "Is that right? Then I suggest you explain yourself before I decide how to proceed." Marilyn tried to speak, but nothing came out. Only a shaky breath that seemed to break in the silence. Ethan crossed his arms, already impatient. Judge Judy watched closely, as if uncovering something deeper beneath the surface. Marilyn's eyes flicked toward her son, almost as if seeking his approval. It was instinctive, years of conditioning, of making herself smaller to avoid conflict. But there had never been peace here, only pain disguised as loyalty. "Mrs. Graves," Judge Judy said, her tone softening slightly, "I'm asking you, not him. Take your time." The courtroom fell completely silent. The overhead lights flickered faintly, casting a pale glow over Marilyn's worn face. She clutched a tissue in her hands, twisting it nervously. I didn't want it to come to this," she whispered at last. "I only asked for what he owed me." Ethan let out a scoff loud enough to draw an immediate glare from the bench. "Owed," he muttered. "It was a gift. She's just rewriting things because she forgets." Marilyn flinched again, not from his tone, but from the deeper hurt of being dismissed. Everyone in the room noticed. "Let her finish," Judge Judy snapped, sharper now. Marilyn swallowed hard. "I loaned Ethan $18,000 last year. He said he needed help. Of course I gave it to him." A tear slipped free, though she quickly wiped it away. "But he promised he'd pay me back." Ethan cut in immediately. "I told you it wasn't a loan. And honestly, you're welcome for everything I've done for you." Judge Judy raised her hand. "Mr. Graves, interrupt again and you will be removed. Do you understand?" He leaned back, arms stretched across the chair as if he owned the room. "Whatever." The disrespect hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Judge Judy turned back to Marilyn. "Why did things escalate today? What happened just before he hit you?" Marilyn looked up, her eyes carrying the quiet exhaustion of someone who had spent years loving a person who only saw her as something to use. "Not, I told him I needed the money back soon," she says quietly. "I have medical expenses, and I can't keep supporting him like this." The silence that follows feels heavy, almost suffocating. Ethan lets out a quiet laugh under his breath. "Yeah, because now she wants to act perfect. Maybe you should ask why she's suddenly so desperate." Judge Judy's focus snaps toward him, sharp and unyielding. "What exactly are you suggesting, Mr. Graves?" Ethan's grin stretches wider, darker. "Oh," he says, casually tapping his fingers on the table. "You'll want to hear this. Because what happened today, that wasn't where it started." The harsh courtroom lights seem even brighter, as if demanding the truth. Marilyn's hands tremble, not randomly, but in a steady rhythm shaped by fear. Ethan shifts, tapping his foot impatiently, almost daring anyone to challenge him. Judge Judy doesn't break eye contact. "Explain yourself, Mr. Graves." "What are you referring to?" He shrugs, his tone cold and careless. "She's been declining for months. Forgetting things, getting confused." "I'm not confused," Marilyn murmurs softly, barely audible. He cuts her off with a sharp, dismissive laugh. "Right. Of course." The word lingers in the air, thick with mockery. Judge Judy turns deliberately toward Marilyn. "Mrs. Graves, I need you to be honest with me. Has this kind of behavior happened before? Any shouting, threats, or physical contact?" The room leans in. Even the smallest sounds seem to disappear. Marilyn lowers her gaze to her lap. The tissue in her hands is torn into tiny pieces, scattered across her skirt like flakes of snow. She takes a shaky breath, then slowly lifts her sleeve. A faint bruise is visible along her forearm, yellow fading into purple, old enough to be healing, but still recent enough to remember. A wave of murmurs spreads through the gallery. Judge Judy's voice softens, though her expression sharpens. "When did that happen?" Marilyn hesitates, her eyes briefly flicking toward Ethan. He leans forward slightly, his stare hard, jaw tight. A silent warning. "It wasn't on purpose," Marilyn whispers. "He grabbed my arm when I tried to take back my checkbook. He didn't mean to hurt me." "I didn't hurt you," Ethan snaps. "I stopped you because you were being reckless." "Reckless?" Judge Judy repeats, her tone icy. "You call controlling her access to her own money reckless?" Ethan's nostrils flare. "She's not stable enough to handle it." Judge Judy tilts her head, studying him carefully. "So your mother is unstable, yet stable enough to lend you 18,000. A quiet reaction ripples through the room. Ethan shoots a glare toward the gallery, but Judge Judy quickly brings his attention back. "We're not finished," she says firmly. "Mrs. Graves, has your son ever shouted at you, thrown objects, blocked your way, or made you feel unsafe in your own home?" Marilyn's lips tremble. "Sometimes he gets angry, but he's under a lot of pressure, and Mrs. Graves." Judge Judy interrupts gently. "Anger does not excuse violence. Please answer clearly." A single tear slips down Marilyn's cheek. "Yes," she whispers. He yells. He throws things when he's upset. Suddenly, Ethan slams his hand down on the table. The sound echoes sharply, mirroring the earlier slap. The bailiff steps forward immediately. Ethan leans in, his voice low and bitter. "She's exaggerating everything." "Enough." Judge Judy's gavel strikes once, cutting through the tension like a crack of thunder. But Marilyn isn't looking at the bench anymore. Her gaze shifts toward the side door, uncertain, almost fearful. "Mrs. Graves," Judge Judy says, following her line of sight, "is there someone else who witnessed what happened?" Marilyn nods faintly. "My neighbor. She heard everything. She said she would come today." Judge Judy gestures toward the bailiff. "Bring her in." The side door creaks open slowly, the sound echoing through the room. Ethan's expression changes, confidence fading into something closer to unease. A woman steps inside, shoulders tense, eyes lowered until Judge Judy addresses her. Ethan straightens, still rigid, but no longer as sure of himself. The neighbor appears to be in her mid-50s, hair neatly tied back, hands clasped tightly as if steadying herself. She takes the witness seat, glancing at Marilyn with a look of quiet sympathy. "State your name," Judge Judy instructs. "Rebecca Shaw," she replies softly. Her voice is calm, but she avoids looking at Ethan entirely, and that alone speaks volumes. Judge Judy leans back slightly, giving her space. "Ms. Shaw, you've lived next door to Mrs. Graves for 8 years, correct? And you're here because you say you witnessed an incident." Rebecca exhales slowly. "More than one, Your Honor." A murmur spreads again through the gallery. Ethan scoffs under his breath, though his knee begins to bounce, an obvious crack in his composure. "Tell me what you heard or saw," Judge Judy says. Rebecca nods, briefly glancing at Marilyn before beginning. "I heard yelling loud and often. At first, I thought it was just normal arguments. But over the past few months, it became something else. Someone to care for." The tone changed. "How did it change?" Judge Judy asks, pressing further. "It sounded aggressive, like someone losing control." Ethan cuts in quickly. "She has nothing better to do than watch other people. She's obsessed with us." Rebecca stiffens but keeps her gaze forward. "I wasn't watching anyone. But when a 70-year-old woman is crying loud enough for me to hear through my walls, I check to make sure she's okay." The room goes quiet. Ethan's jaw tightens, but Judge Judy silences him with a sharp gesture. Rebecca continues, her voice only slightly unsteady. "One evening, I saw him carrying boxes out to his car. Large ones, at least 5 or 6. Marilyn blinks rapidly, clearly caught off guard. She hadn't expected that detail to surface. Judge Judy's expression sharpens. Boxes? What kind of boxes? Cardboard storage boxes. Rebecca replies, swallowing nervously. They looked heavy. He was moving quickly, like he didn't want anyone to notice. Did you mention this to Mrs. Graves? Judge Judy asks. Yes, the next morning. She seemed confused, thought she might have misplaced a few things. But the timing didn't sit right, and the arguments between them got worse after that. Ethan forces a laugh, though it cracks slightly. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Judge Judy turns fully toward him. So you did move boxes. He hesitates, just long enough to give himself away. Rebecca adds quietly, there were more boxes the following week and even a van. I didn't want to get involved. All eyes shift to Marilyn. Her expression shifts from confusion to something far more painful. Realization. She looks at Ethan as if seeing him clearly for the first time. Mr. Graves, Judge Judy says, her tone tightening. What exactly was in those boxes? Ethan shifts in his seat, the smirk gone now. Just my stuff. Rebecca speaks again, more firmly this time. Some of those boxes had her labels on them. Bedroom items, keepsakes, jewelry. Marilyn gasps softly. Judge Judy taps her gavel once, slow and deliberate. Mr. Graves, she says, her voice turning to steel. Why were you removing your mother's belongings from her home? The color drains from Ethan's face. The courtroom braces for what comes next. Marilyn inhales sharply, as if the air itself has been pulled from her chest. Ethan's eyes dart between Judge Judy, his mother, and the exit, as though searching for a way out that doesn't exist. Judge Judy lets the silence stretch, the pressure building around him. Mr. Graves. She repeats, slower this time. Why were you taking your mother's belongings? His jaw shifts, teeth grinding. They were mine, most of them anyway. Most, Judge Judy fires back. Your neighbor described boxes labeled bedroom items and jewelry. Are those yours too? Ethan glances at Marilyn. She sits trembling, blinking rapidly like someone trying to wake from a nightmare. She wasn't using them, he says with a shrug. The house is cluttered. I was helping clean things up. Helping? Judge Judy echoes, her voice cutting through the excuse. Did she ask you to remove anything? Marilyn's voice is barely above a whisper. No. The single word sounds fragile, like cracked glass. Ethan narrows his eyes. Mom, we talked about this. You said. We did not. Marilyn interrupts, surprising even herself with the firmness in her voice. Her hands tremble, but her words hold steady. I never told you to take my things. A ripple of murmurs spreads through the room before the bailiff quiets it. Judge Judy leans forward, elbows resting on the bench. Mrs. Graves, do you know what's missing? Marilyn closes her eyes as tears gather. My wedding china, my photo albums, Bill's watch, the quilt my mother made for me. Ethan exhales sharply. They were just sitting there, collecting dust. I thought. Judge Judy cuts in sharply. No, you didn't think. You took. And not just that, you removed those items quietly, without her knowledge. Ethan stiffens. You're exaggerating. Oh, Judge Judy raises a brow. Were you planning to return them? He hesitates. Just a moment, but enough. No, he finally says, because I earned them after everything I've done for her. Her stare turns colder. And what exactly have you done that gives you the right to take her property? His voice rises defensively. I drive her around. I fix things in the house. You have no idea how much effort it takes to deal with someone like her. Marilyn inhales sharply, more hurt by the word deal than anything else. Judge Judy remains unmoved. You don't deal with your mother. You respect her, you care for her, and you certainly don't strip her home of her belongings. Ethan's frustration builds. You want the truth about those boxes? Fine. I was preparing them. For what? Judge Judy presses. Silence stretches, tense and heavy. Marilyn's voice trembles. Ethan, preparing for what? He exhales through clenched teeth. I was getting ready to sell them. A wave of shock ripples through the courtroom. Judge Judy's eyes sharpen. This is clearly only part of the story. A monitor is rolled in, its blank screen reflecting the tension in the room. Ethan shifts uneasily now. Judge Judy's gaze fixes on him. Pull up the listing, she orders. The screen flickers to life. First a loading icon, then images appear. Marilyn gasps, her hand flying to her mouth. Displayed on the screen are pieces of her life, her antique dresser, her wedding china, her mother's handmade quilt, her husband's fishing gear. Each item photographed, priced, and listed like merchandise, as if it were an estate sale. But she's still alive. A stunned reaction spreads through the courtroom. Even the bailiff's expression tightens. Judge Judy turns back to Ethan. Is this your account? He slumps slightly, composure slipping. It's temporary. I was just testing the market. Testing? Judge Judy repeats, disbelief in her voice. These items already have offers pending pickup. Marilyn's eyes fill with tears. My things, Ethan. Why would you do this? He shifts nervously, forcing out a weak laugh that fades quickly. She doesn't use them. She probably didn't even remember half of it existed. Her voice cracks. They're all I have left of your father. The words land heavily. Ethan looks away, jaw tight, refusing to show emotion. Judge Judy taps the bench once. Bring up the watch. The screen changes to a close-up image of a gold watch resting on velvet, its worn edges catching the light. The listing reads, Vintage Men's Gold Watch. Nor $650, like new. Marilyn struggles to breathe. That was Bill's, he wore it every Sunday. Memories flood the room, years of life reduced to a price tag. Judge Judy's expression hardens. Mr. Graves, explain how your late father's watch, a treasured item, became something you call disposable. For the first time, Ethan falters. Shush, she said I could have it. Marilyn looks up, stunned. I never said that. Judge Judy leans forward, her voice low and cutting. You didn't just take sentimental belongings. You turned grief into profit. Murmurs of disgust ripple through the courtroom. Ethan snaps back. People sell things online all the time. That's not illegal. No. Judge Judy replies calmly. But taking from your mother and lying about it, that's a serious moral failure. Her eyes lock onto him. Where is the watch now? Ethan freezes. The clerk scrolls down. The status reads sold. Awaiting delivery. Marilyn's face crumples as silent tears fall. Judge Judy doesn't look away. One more question, Mr. Graves. He looks up, unease spreading across his face. Did you also sell the watch box? Ethan goes pale instantly, as if the question struck something he hoped would stay hidden. A wave of whispers moves through the courtroom. Judge Judy doesn't blink. Mr. Graves, did you sell the box? He swallows hard. It's just a box. A box, she repeats, tapping her pen lightly. The kind that usually contains the watch. The implication hangs in the air. Marilyn clasps her hands tightly. Ethan, what did you do with it? He avoids her gaze, staring down at the table, caught between defiance and panic. Judge Judy leans forward again. Where is the box? He inhales sharply, then tries to regain control. I don't have to answer that. It's irrelevant. Not when it leads to the truth. Judge Judy replies firmly. And the truth is, items don't get sold without what's inside them being sold as well. A loud murmur rolls through the courtroom like distant thunder. The bailiff lifts a hand, but the pressure in the room keeps building. Marilyn's breathing shakes. You told me you were keeping the watch to remember your father. Ethan snaps, but the words catch in his throat. I needed money. Judge Judy's eyes narrow. So you're admitting the watch was sold? His fists tighten. Yeah, I sold it. Is that what you wanted to hear? Marilyn covers her mouth, a quiet, broken sound slipping through her fingers. Grief she can't hold back. Judge Judy doesn't offer sympathy. She offers clarity. When did you sell it? Ethan shifts. Last week. For how much? $600. Her brow lifts slightly. And how much did you tell your mother you needed? He pauses. $3,000. The betrayal hits hard. Marilyn's shoulders sink as if the strength has been pulled out of her. He didn't just lie. He created a false emergency using her love against her. Judge Judy sets her pen down with precision. So let me get this straight. You invented a crisis, took your mother's belongings, sold them, and kept the money. It wasn't like that. Ethan fires back. I was going to give some of it back. Some, she repeats. You mean whatever was left after you took what you decided you deserved? He glares, jaw tight. You don't understand. Enough. The word cuts him off cleanly. Judge Judy gestures toward the clerk. Pull up the buyer's information. Ethan's head jerks up. Wait, what? The monitor loads again. A name appears, along with a location and transaction details. Judge Judy fixes her gaze on him. We're contacting your buyer. A collective gasp fills the courtroom. Ethan shoots to his feet, panic replacing arrogance. You can't do that. That's private. Not here, Judge Judy replies evenly. You sold property that wasn't yours. The bailiff steps closer. Ethan slowly lowers himself back into his seat. Judge Judy folds her hands. Bring the buyer in. The door opens, and a man walks in holding a small velvet pouch. Something meant to protect valuables, something personal. Ethan's face drains of color. Judge Judy watches as the man approaches and takes the stand. State your name. Daniel Trent. And you're here because... He clears his throat. I bought a watch from him. He gestures toward Ethan, who immediately looks away. Marilyn winces as if struck again. Judge Judy leans forward. Mr. Trent, I'm going to ask you direct questions. Answer clearly. Understood? Yes, ma'am. Did he tell you where the watch came from? Daniel hesitates. He said it belonged to his mother. A murmur spreads through the room. Marilyn presses her trembling lips together. Judge Judy raises a hand, restoring silence. Did he tell you his mother was alive? Daniel frowns. No, he said she had passed away. A sharp gasp echoes across the courtroom. Marilyn folds inward, devastated. Ethan whips toward Daniel, anger flashing. You misunderstood. That's not what I... Sit down, Judge Judy orders. He drops back into his seat, tension radiating off him. Judge Judy turns back to Daniel. Why did you bring the pouch? Daniel loosens the string and opens it. He told me he needed money urgently, that he was paying for moving his mother into a care facility. Marilyn's hand falls from her mouth. A facility. Daniel nods gently. He said arrangements were being made for long-term care, that everything needed to be handled this week. The courtroom erupts. Order, the bailiff calls out. Judge Judy's expression turns icy. Mr. Graves, were you planning to place your mother in a care facility? Ethan opens his mouth, then shuts it again. Marilyn stares at him, fear flooding her face. Ethan, what is he talking about? I was just looking at options. He stammers. She can't live alone forever. I was thinking ahead. Without her consent. Judge Judy snaps. I was going to tell her. When? She demands. Before or after you cleared out her home and sold her belongings? He says nothing. Daniel, still holding the pouch, speaks softly. He said everything had to be paid by tomorrow. Marilyn's body seems to weaken, as if the ground beneath her has given way. Judge Judy straightens, her expression settling into firm judgment. Mr. Graves, it appears you didn't just take possessions. You took control. Her choices, her independence, her dignity. Ethan stammers, his voice catching. You're twisting things. I'm making them clear. Judge Judy snaps back, her tone cutting through the room. The courtroom falls into an eerie silence, the kind that hangs just before a storm breaks. She turns slightly. Bailiff, bring me the paperwork he submitted for that facility. Ethan's breathing falters. He knows exactly what's buried in those documents, something he never expected to be exposed. Moments later, the bailiff returns with a thick stack of papers, heavy enough to change everything. Ethan's leg bounces uncontrollably now, his confidence gone, replaced by the restless energy of someone cornered. Judy waits patiently, fingers pressed there as the documents land on her bench with a dull, final thud. She opens the file. The atmosphere tightens instantly, like tension pulled too far. Marilyn leans forward, her voice shaky. What is that? Without lifting her eyes, Judy replies, this appears to be an admission packet for Pleasant Pines long-term care facility. She flips another page. Signed, dated, processed. Marilyn blinks rapidly, confusion flooding her face. I never signed anything. Ethan squeezes his eyes shut, forcing out a breath. It's just preparation. I was trying to help. Judy's head lifts sharply, her stare locking onto him. By falsifying a legal document. A ripple of shock moves through the room. The bailiff shifts a little closer to Ethan. I didn't falsify anything. Ethan insists. I filled out the forms, but what? Judy cuts in. Your mother's signature is right here. Are you claiming she signed it willingly? Marilyn shakes her head hard, her voice cracking. I never even saw those papers. Judy raises the document slightly. Then explain this signature. Ethan falters. I traced it from. The words die in the air. Silence takes over completely. Even the faint hum of the lights seems to fade for a moment. Judy lowers the papers slowly, deliberately. You traced her signature. It's not as bad as it sounds, he blurts. It is, Judy replies coldly. Exactly as bad as it sounds. Marilyn's voice is barely audible. Ethan, why would you do that? He doesn't respond. Judy turns another page. Not only did you submit forged documents, you requested an expedited placement, scheduled for tomorrow morning. Marilyn's breath breaks. Tomorrow. The realization crashes over her, pain replacing trust in her eyes. Judy's expression hardens. Mr. Trent, the buyer stated you needed immediate funds because your mother was being moved into a facility. That aligns perfectly with this request. Ethan clenches his jaw, panic flickering behind his eyes. I was overwhelmed. Then he snaps. Fine. I couldn't keep watching her ruin everything. She forgets things, breaks things. She slows everything down. Marilyn's voice trembles. I slow you down. Ethan slams his hand on the table, desperation spilling out. You don't understand. I needed control. You needed money. Judy interrupts firmly, and the quickest way to access your mother's assets was to remove her. The words land heavily. Judy lifts the papers again. Mr. Graves, who assisted you in preparing these forms? Ethan's eyes dart toward the gallery. Judy follows his glance immediately. Her gaze locks onto a woman seated in the second row. The woman freezes, color draining from her face. The room stirs quietly. Ma'am, Judy says evenly, please stand and step forward. The woman rises slowly, guilt weighing down her posture. Her heels echo sharply against the floor as she approaches the witness stand, avoiding eye contact. State your name, Judy instructs. Lenalina Porter, she answers softly. And your relationship to Mr. Graves, she swallows. I'm his girlfriend. Marilyn exhales unsteadily, as if a silent suspicion has just been confirmed. Someone else influencing her son, guiding his decisions. Judy gives a small nod. Miss Porter, your boyfriend has admitted to tracing his mother's signature, attempting to place her in a facility without her consent, and selling her belongings. I'm giving you the opportunity to explain your role. Lena fidgets, her fingers knotting together in her lap. I just helped complete the paperwork. He told me everything had already been approved. He said she agreed to it. Marilyn shakes her head firmly. No, I didn't. I would never agree to that. Lena blinks quickly as tears begin to form. I didn't know. Ethan told me she was declining mentally, that she couldn't handle things anymore, and that we had to step in. Judge Judy narrows her eyes. Did you personally see any signs of cognitive decline? Lena hesitates, then slowly shakes her head. No. She seemed kind, aware, maybe a little overwhelmed sometimes, but not confused. Then why assist him? Judy presses. Lena's shoulders drop under the weight of it, because he said the house would basically become ours, that once she was placed in long-term care, he'd gain control of it early, and we could finally live there together. A soft, pained gasp escapes Marilyn. Lena, stop talking. Ethan snaps. Judy's gavel strikes once, sharp and final. You will not interrupt her. Lena wipes at her tears. He promised it was all legal, that she had signed everything willingly. He said she was just being difficult because she didn't want us to be happy. Marilyn's voice trembles. Ethan, how could you say that about me? He looks away, his jaw tightening. Because you are difficult. You make everything harder. Judy leans forward, her voice precise and cutting. Miss Porter, did anything about those documents raise concern? Lena nods faintly. Some of the signatures looked unsteady, but he said she had arthritis. A wave of disbelief moves through the courtroom. Quiet gasps, low murmurs. Judy exhales slowly, disappointment evident. Miss Porter, regardless of your intent, you became part of a fraudulent act. Tears stream freely down Lena's face now. I'm sorry. I truly didn't understand. Judy shifts her focus back to Ethan, her voice dropping into something quieter, more dangerous. Mr. Graves, you deceived your girlfriend and attempted to strip your mother of her independence. That's not confusion, that's calculated. Ethan grips the edge of the table, his knuckles pale. Judy turns to Marilyn, her tone softer but deliberate. Mrs. Graves, were you aware that your son intended to take ownership of your home? Marilyn's tears suddenly stop, not because the pain is gone, but because realization settles in, sharp and undeniable. Ethan notices it too. For the first time, unease crosses his face. Judy leans back slightly, recognizing the shift, the moment clarity replaces doubt. Marilyn's voice shakes. At my home. You wanted my home. Ethan drags a trembling hand down his face, the confidence gone, replaced with frustration and raw desperation. Mom, stop. You're making it sound worse than it is. Worse than what? She cuts in, her voice breaking. Not with fear, but with growing understanding. Her hands, once fragile, now grip the table with quiet strength. Judy speaks gently. Mrs. Graves, answer only if you're ready. Did you know your son planned to take your home? Marilyn shakes her head slowly. I thought he just needed help. That he needed time. I did need help. Ethan interjects. You have no idea the pressure I'm under. Judy's gavel comes down firmly. Pressure does not justify destroying your mother's life. Ethan rises abruptly. You don't know what she's like. She's impossible. Always worrying, always calling, always asking for something. I'm exhausted. I'm the only one who ever steps up. Marilyn flinches. Not out of fear, but recognition. Judy tilts her head slightly. So your solution was to take away her independence, sell her belongings, and place her in a facility using forged documents. Ethan's voice rises, strained and cracking. She needed structure. She needed someone in charge. Control. Judy repeats, the word chilling the room. Marilyn wipes a tear. Ethan, you used to visit just to spend time with me, just to talk. When did that stop being enough? He opens his mouth, but no words come. His breathing falters. Judy watches closely, sensing him unravel. Mrs. Graves, she continues, did he ever repay the $18,000 you lent him? Marilyn hesitates, her gaze drifting as if searching through memories clouded by denial. No, but he said he would. He said he had nothing left, that he needed it to survive. Judy turns sharply back toward him. Mr. Graves, what did you tell your mother that money was for? Ethan stiffens. Rent, it was for rent. Judge Judy raises an eyebrow. Because according to the records provided, you were never behind on rent. Not once. Marilyn's head jerks toward him. What? Ethan's jaw tightens. It's not that simple. Judy cuts in, her voice dropping into a controlled, dangerous calm. You lied to her. You created a fake emergency to take money from a 70-year-old woman who trusted you more than anyone. A heavy pause settles over the room. Then Marilyn's voice, barely above a whisper. Why, Ethan? Why would you do that to me? He says nothing, his expression twists, part guilt, part defiance. A man trapped inside the story he built. Judy studies them both, then glances back at the documents. Something shifts in her expression, subtle but powerful. She looks directly at Marilyn. Mrs. Graves, why did you lend him the 18,000 in the first place? Marilyn freezes. The truth she's avoided begins to surface. Her breath catches. Her lips part, but no words come. The question hangs between them like a spotlight on something deeply buried. Ethan looks away, but not quickly enough to hide the flicker of unease crossing his face. Judy softens slightly. "Take your time, Mrs. Graves." Marilyn clasps her trembling hands together, her gaze distant, as if reaching back to a moment she tried to forget. "I gave him the money because he told me he was being evicted." Judy's eyes narrow, not in surprise but in confirmation. Marilyn continues, each word heavier than the last. "He came to me one night crying, said he would lose his apartment by morning. Said he had nowhere else to go." Across the room Ethan stiffens, too rigid, too rehearsed. Judy turns to him. "Is that accurate?" Ethan opens his mouth, closes it, then tries again. "It wasn't exactly an eviction." "It wasn't an eviction at all," Judy corrects. "According to the records, you weren't behind on rent a single day." Marilyn's face crumbles in disbelief. "Then you told me you were sleeping in your car." He drags a hand through his hair, frustration rising. "I needed money. I didn't think you'd give it to me otherwise." The admission lands quietly, but it hits hard. Marilyn steadies herself with a fragile breath. "You cried in my arms. You said your landlord threw your things out, that you were humiliated." Ethan's jaw tightens. "I had to make it sound urgent. So you lied," she whispers. Judy steps in. "Not just lied. He constructed a crisis to take advantage of your compassion." A low murmur spreads through the courtroom. What once felt like spectacle now feels painfully real. Marilyn wipes her trembling lips. "I thought if I didn't help you I would lose you. That you'd disappear from my life." Ethan's eyes flicker for a moment, but the softness fades quickly. "What was I supposed to do? You never helped me when I actually needed it." Judy's gavel strikes once. The sound echoes like thunder. "Mr. Graves, your mother rescued you from a situation you invented, and you repaid her by tearing apart her life." Ethan's shoulders slump. The confidence he once carried has collapsed. Marilyn presses a hand to her chest, as if holding herself together. "All I wanted was for you to be okay. Ethan, I didn't realize I was paying for my own disappearance." Silence fills the courtroom, thick with realization and betrayal. Judy lets it sit, then leans forward, her tone sharpening again. "Mr. Graves, after taking her money, you sold her belongings and submitted forged legal documents." Her eyes lock onto his. "Tell me this, was there ever a moment you intended to pay your mother back?" Ethan goes still. The entire room seems to hold its breath, waiting for the answer that will define everything. Ethan's silence is unsettling, like someone who suddenly realizes the trap has already closed around him. Judge Judy doesn't blink. Marilyn barely breathes. "Answer the question," Judy says quietly. "Did you ever intend to repay your mother?" The silence stretches unbearably tight. Then Ethan exhales, long, broken, defeated. "No," he mutters. Marilyn's face doesn't show shock anymore. It shows heartbreak that confirms what she already knew deep down. It isn't the lie that destroys her. It's the confirmation that she was never seen as anything more than a source of money. Judy's voice hardens. "Say it clearly." Ethan's eyes flicker with weak resistance, but it's fading fast. "No, I wasn't going to pay her back. She owes me after everything I've dealt with." A wave of gasp spreads through the courtroom. Someone whispers, "Oh my God." Judy lifts a finger. Silence falls instantly. "Explain that," she says coldly. "Explain how a 70-year-old woman owes you anything." Ethan throws his hands up. "You don't understand. My whole life she favored my sister. Everything was for her. I was the problem, the burden." A ripple of discomfort moves through the room. Marilyn's expression twists, pain, confusion, grief all mixing together. "Your sister passed away," Marilyn says softly. "You know she's been gone for 12 years. The room goes quiet again. That truth crushes whatever justification Ethan was trying to build. Judy folds her hands. "So your resentment is built on a memory you twisted into justification for theft." Ethan's voice tightens. "You don't know how she treated me." Marilyn's voice breaks through, fragile but steady. "Ethan, I grieved your sister every day. Every single day. I never stopped loving you either. I tried to reach you." He lets out a bitter laugh. "Yeah, maybe you should have tried harder." Something in the room shifts at that. Marilyn's eyes shimmer, not just with tears, but with realization. Judy leans forward. "At some point, you created a story where your mother became your enemy." She gestures toward the evidence. "But that story doesn't survive the facts. Bank records, forged documents, sold belongings, lees." Her voice sharpens. "You didn't just take her money. You tried to take her independence." Ethan slams his hand on the table. "Because she made me feel powerless." "She judged everything I did, like I was a failure she needed to fix." Marilyn presses a hand to her chest. "I worried because I love you, not because I was ashamed of you." Ethan's breathing turns uneven. His arrogance is cracking, piece by piece. He's unraveling in real time. Judy watches him for a long, cold moment. Then she turns to the bailiff. "Bring the financial records." Ethan jerks upright. "Why?" "Because I'm not done," Judy replies. "We're going through every transaction, every withdrawal, every inconsistency." The bailiff places a thick stack of documents on the bench. Page after page of numbers that don't lie. Ethan stares at them like they belong to another language, one he hoped would never be understood. Marilyn sits rigid, gripping her hands tightly, trying to hold herself together. Judy flips to the first page, scanning with surgical precision. "Mr. Graves," she says evenly, "explain these repeated withdrawals from your mother's account." Ethan swallows hard. "She gave me permission." Marilyn turns sharply.
"I did not."
"She did," Ethan snaps, panic breaking through.
"You always said yes."
"You never said no." Judy's voice cuts in immediately. "That is not permission. That is coercion." A heavy silence falls over the room. Then she continues, turning another page. "Here are withdrawals of 800 and 400 and more. Over 3 months. Nearly 4,000 total." Ethan leans forward, sweating now. She forgets things. She needed help managing her money. Marilyn interrupts softly, but firmly. "I remember every penny. Ethan, it was you who needed help, and I kept giving it, again and again." Judge Judy nods firmly. "That wasn't support. That was financial extraction." Ethan's control finally breaks. "I didn't steal from her. I just borrowed it until I got back on my feet." Judy lifts a highlighted page. "You withdrew 300 the same day you sold the watch. This wasn't survival. You were maintaining a lifestyle." Ethan's face flushes. "You're twisting everything." "No," Judy replies evenly. "I'm reading your own bank records." Marilyn's breathing becomes uneven, as if she's reliving years she tried to bury. "My savings, I thought they were safe." "They should have been," Judy says gently. "And they will be again." She sets the files aside and studies Ethan with a calm that cuts deeper than anger. "You didn't just take money. You didn't just sell property. You didn't just forge documents. You broke trust. You exploited love, and you convinced yourself it was justified." Ethan's eyes dart around the room, searching for sympathy, for escape, for anyone to shift blame onto. But no one meets his gaze. Even Lena looks away. Marilyn wipes her tears but keeps her voice steady. "I never asked for anything from you. I only wanted honesty. I wanted my son." Ethan mutters, voice rough. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." Judy lifts her chin slightly. "Intent matters, but consequences matter more." She closes the file. The sound echoes like a final lock clicking shut. "I am ready to rule." The room goes still. Everything tightens into expectation. Judy removes her glasses slowly and places them on the bench. It's deliberate, final. Ethan's breath catches. Marilyn's hands clasp together. The entire courtroom leans into the moment. Then Judy speaks. "Mr. Graves, you manipulated, exploited, and betrayed your mother beyond financial harm. You dismantled her home, forged her signature, and attempted to place her into a facility she did not consent to." Ethan flinches. But she continues. "You called it responsibility, but responsibility is built on care. Yours was built on entitlement." Marilyn's eyes glisten, not with fresh tears, but with relief, like something heavy has finally been lifted. Judy turns to her. "Mrs. Graves, you deserve safety, you deserve dignity, and you deserve a son who values you for who you are, not what you provide." Then she turns back to Ethan. "I am ruling in favor of the plaintiff. You will repay the full 18,000. You will compensate her for every item sold, including the watch. And anything unsold will be returned immediately." Ethan slumps. "That's impossible." "It's not my concern," Judy replies sharply. "These are the consequences of your actions." He looks toward Lena, searching for support, but she stays silent, eyes down. There is no rescue left. Judy continues, final and firm. "As for the forged documents, I am referring this matter to the appropriate authorities. Whether charges follow is beyond this court, but this will not be ignored." A wave of murmurs moves through the gallery. Marilyn's trembling finally eases. For the first time, truth has weight, and she is no longer carrying it alone. Ethan whistles, voice breaking. "Mom, I didn't mean." Marilyn gently shakes her head. Not angry, just finished with the illusion. "I loved you enough to believe your stories," she says softly. "But I've learned that love cannot survive where honesty doesn't exist." The words land harder than any judgment. Judy nods once. "Well said." The bailiff steps forward. "I'll rise. This matter is concluded." Ethan stands slowly, unsteady, as if the floor beneath him has changed. Marilyn stands too, but differently now. Straighter. No longer weighed down by misplaced guilt. Judy watches them both. Arrogance collapses the moment truth enters the room, she says quietly. And today truth entered,